Hi guys, I'm back kind of late again, just before bed. I was gonna call earlier. I was gonna do this earlier, but I had a friend call and then we ended up being on the phone for quite some time. And you gotta be there for your friends. So, oh my gosh, guys, yeah, I'm in a bit of a state and it's been a day. If you watch my short video of my digestive misery that I self created earlier today from having that protein bar that's like synthetic nonsense with sucralose in it. Um, it really made me feel so sick. And it's like, how many times you got to do that before you learn? Literally at the beginning of this journey, there's another video where I talk about a day where I had half of one and it just like did not set well. And so, anyway, I did it again to myself. A lot of it is just really struggling with cravings, but I actually feel like I've found the culprit and I've reached kind of a bridge and I can go in one of two directions, but I've been really thinking about this a lot today. First, I want to report like the praise report, right? The praise report is that I feel better. I'm noticeably more fit. Um, I just have I have infinitely more peace and I feel healthier than I did just 2 weeks ago, right? So for day 17, it's pretty impressive the results we've already had. Okay. That being said, I want to title this particular entry, "Is the Honeymoon Over?" Because a lot of my like beginning videos, I'm just like a chipper little squirrel, just feeling all the benefits and very little problems or stress. And then these last couple of days have been really hard. And there is an emotional component. I've talked about this. I'm in a grief season. But I think it's more than that. I think I didn't anticipate how hard it was going to be to really be strict about this kind of in a longer way. Historically, I'm really bad at regulating around food. Carnivore has given me so much freedom because I tend to not feel that way as much, but it hasn't gone away completely. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. So we're going to discuss those here. I'm looking at my list. I genuinely feel like I have two choices. I can either go really strict and quit messing around and cut out dairy and cut out all artificial sweeteners and just keep it very, very simple. The other direction I can go is what I was doing before when I had success on carnivore. Because I wasn't challenging myself to any particular length of days or whatever. I was just eating the only things that sounded remotely good or that I could digest at the time. But what I was eating then was mostly meat-based. It was a lot of beef. There was a little bit of cheese, a yogurt probably every other day. There was some butter, there was some beef fat, or not beef fat, bacon fat, and there was some bacon. But I ate a lot of beef, occasionally chicken and shrimp. And I was eating cucumbers, avocado, and hummus. Not hummus, sorry. Well, kind of actually. Cucumbers, avocado, and watermelon. Occasionally raspberries. But I would just get like one of those pre-cut small things at the grocery store of watermelon chunks, a couple of avocados, and a cucumber. And I would have a little bit of cucumber with some tzatziki or hummus, like one or two times, which didn't go over very well. The tzatziki suited me way better. And anytime I was craving something sweet, I would have a couple of watermelon chunks. It didn't take much to curb that. A couple watermelon chunks, a couple of berries, and then I'd be done. Now, I do believe at the time I was still sweetening coffee a couple of times a week or tea with some honey. I was having like a turmeric latte because turmeric's supposed to be good for inflammation. That's what I heard. And so I was having like turmeric and a little bit of milk, and like I was making this turmeric tea and then having a little bit of milk and a little bit of honey in it. And I was having no coffee then, really, for the most part. And if I was, it was decaf, and it was like once a week at best. I say this because, oh, and I did do a thing where I was having like a half of a True Bar. I don't know if you guys know what True Bars are. I think it's vegan. It's a protein bar, but it's pretty clean ingredients. It's like cassava root, fiber, blah, blah, blah. Relatively low sugar. I think it's like 8 or 9 grams of sugar per serving. And I was having like half of one of those a day, and it was kind of like a candy bar. It was still giving me a little bit of that sweet and kind of a chewy texture that the fruit wasn't doing. And so maybe I would have part of one of those a day, but at the most a day. Sometimes usually it was only like a couple times a week, right? When I was really like craving something sweet. Then I got into the second phase where I was still eating meat-based, but I would add in like a slice of sourdough bread here and there because I used to bake homemade sourdough all the time. And then I got into a phase where I was eating the occasional cracker and like clean crackers. Either I'd make them myself or. And then I got in that same era, I was doing like Heavenly Hunks. I don't know if you've heard of those. They're kind of like almost like oatmeal cookies, but they're very simple. Again, relatively low sugar, but very satisfying when you're like craving something sweet. And for whatever reason, I was able to regulate myself around those things. And I was still feeling really good. And I was losing weight and keeping it off. So that felt good to me. Okay, so now I'm in a situation where I'm getting sad, actually. It's like my palate is so longing for freshness. And so how I could best explain that is I genuinely do enjoy the meat and the eggs and the cheese and the little bit of dairy I have, right? But I've been having like that sweet thing where I really want something sweet. And so I've been either overdoing electrolytes or overdoing the sweetened yogurts, the like stevia monk fruit yogurts. And, those are processed and there's stuff in them that's not super clean. And so I don't really like having them habitually. Whereas before I had maybe 2 of those a week rather than one every single day because I was having those few little chunks of watermelon or like a cutie tangerine or a couple of raspberries when I was wanting sweetness. And that like did it for me. And so I wasn't eating the yogurt compulsively. And it's like, if I'm going to have something sweet, I'd rather have it be like a natural thing that came out of the ground that God made than some stupid bunch of like moo goo from a factory that has artificial sweeteners in it. So I'm kind of trying to figure out if I'm just a person who needs to be meat-based with a tiny bit of like, because avocado really helped me before. It didn't trigger weird things in me. It helped me to get enough fat in a way where I could tolerate it. It helped me just feel like what I was eating wasn't so heavy. And the cucumbers were so refreshing and hydrating, and I didn't eat very much of them, but just having even a few slices alongside a steak or a burger patty or something was just it was just enough to like cut the richness of like a meat diet to where I felt like it was just more sustainable for me. So I have a feeling what I will probably do is go really strict for a time and see how that works, because truthfully, I know if I cut out dairy, and artificial sweeteners, I'll lose more weight more quickly. The other thing I thought about, I honestly think part of the reason I'm having all these horrible cravings the last couple of days is because I've been having too many artificial sweeteners. I think they're triggering cravings in me. And I'm not trying to do that to myself. You know what I mean? So